Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Asian Psycho, and this review this time is going to be on the second clan weapon that you can access, or that was introduced to the clan shop in Combat Arms, the TMP submachine gun. And a little bit of background information on the TMP. Me personally, anyway, I first heard of the TMP from Modern Warfare 2. It was a machine pistol, and it wasn't really that good. I think it was like the shittiest machine pistol in Modern Warfare 2. It was like, I think it only held like 15 rounds, and it didn't really have that great damage, and no one ever used them. So when the TMP first came out for Combat Arms, I had the initial impression that it would be as bad as the one in Modern Warfare 2. So at first I didn't really bother using it all that much. But after a while, I kept getting messages from my friends and people saying that, oh, the TMP is so good, like it's so overpowered, and I was like, maybe it's a little bit different than I thought. So the first time I remember using it, I remember getting unbelievable the first life that I used it. So yeah, the TMP is definitely a very strong submachine gun, but it's not without its drawbacks, even though it may seem overpowered to some people. It's definitely not without its drawbacks. So let's get into why I say so in a little bit. So more background information on it as it pertains to Combat Arms. The TMP does cost 1200 GP a day, in other words 1200 GP a day, and that's really pricey. I think that's in terms of GP, I think that's the highest costing submachine gun that you could get ever. So this TMP doesn't come cheap at all, and man, it's really expensive. That's all I can say. And also, it is kind of difficult to access. It is unlocked only at clan if you're in a clan that's ranked level 3 or higher. So if you're not in a clan that's at least level 3, then it's gonna be kind of hard to access the TMP because you can't really. So if you really want to try out the TMP, go join a clan that's rank 3 or level 3 and up, and you'll be able to access the TMP. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty stats on the TMP. The TMP deals a very strong 38 damage. If you think about it, the TMP's damage is one of the highest, if not amongst the highest, for submachine guns in its class. I believe the M249 Para, the UMP45, and I want to say there's some other submachine guns that actually deal 38 damage as well, but I have to think a little bit more carefully than that. But the M249 Para and the UMP45 are the two submachine guns that deal the same damage as the TMP. So the TMP is definitely, as I would classify it, one of the stronger submachine guns of its class. Portability wise, the TMP is actually very strong. It's got an 85 portability. This isn't as high as, say, the NX standard submachine guns, like the T2 has 88, and all the other ones like the FMG9, Magpul, and all the most recent ones all have 90. But the TMP for a GP submachine gun is very high in terms of portability, and you can definitely run around with this very quickly. I mean, it is technically a machine pistol, so I mean, it is understandable that you'll be able to run around very quickly with the TMP. Portability wise, the portability, or I already covered the portability, what the hell, the rate of fire on the TMP is the same as it is on, I believe, the UMP and the, I want to say the M249 Para, at 79, so definitely the TMP is one of the stronger hitting but slower firing submachine guns. So clearly the TMP is or it's appropriate to group the TMP with submachine guns like the UMP45 and the M249 Para in that respect. Accuracy wise, it has a very high 74, and I don't really understand why the TMP has such a high accuracy. Maybe it might explain the fact that I'm getting so many stupid headshots in this gameplay that you see here on Death Room, but I mean, high accuracy, I mean, it doesn't hurt to have higher accuracy, right? And yeah, to me personally anyway, the very high accuracy on the TMP is notable through the fact that I'm getting so many headshots, so that's a good thing, I guess. Recoil wise, the recoil on the TMP is actually on the heavier side for submachine guns at 68. So the recoil on the TMP, let's discuss a little bit on the recoil on the TMP by talking about its recoil spread. The recoil spread is extremely the hipfire spread enlarges extremely quickly on the TMP. is very difficult to manage for difficult, or not difficult, but for starting players who just pick up the TMP. I know some people who absolutely hate the TMP because they can't ever manage the recoil on it, because once you go full auto within like the first 4 or 5 bullets, the spread is already kicking around like a mule, and it's very hard for you to kind of get the recoil back under your control. So that's why I believe that's one of the main drawbacks on the TMP, that the fact that the TMP is a very heavy recoil submachine gun. Not only in like its numerical stat, but also in terms of the hit-fire spread. Moving on to its recoil kickback, kickback is unfortunately very high as well. The spread also spreads as much as the spread also enlarges, the kickback is also very heavy as well. You'll notice that the kickback is very much so vertically inclined, but it'll bounce around as it kicks up. So the recoil kickback and the spread are things that you need to watch out for. The recoil in general is something you need to watch out for and control on the TMP. So that's one of its main drawbacks. Moving on to the overall recoil controllability. So recoil controllability on the TMP is very difficult at first. At close quarter, you shouldn't really mind too much, because I mean the TMP is a submachine gun, it's meant for some close quarters combat anyway. But at middle range, even though it does have a very good damage drop off over range due to its very high power, its damage or capabilities at middle range is limited because of its heavy recoil. So unfortunately, I don't know how much or to what extent you'll be able to use TMP at middle range, unfortunately. Moving on to its Tapfire ability, because of its slow rate of fire, I mean it is surprisingly tap-fireable, if that's even a word, for submachine guns, because along with the fact that it has a forced I-Tech scope, I mean you could tap-fire with it, I guess, and because of its high accuracy for a submachine gun, I guess you could try picking off heads at far middle range, but I don't really suggest you do it. Moving on to the sprint drawback, because it is submachine gun, the sprint drawback on the TMP is quite quick. It is because of its sprint animation, it is quicker than a lot of other submachine guns anyway. So moving on to the draw speed. The draw speed of the TMP is extremely fast, even for a submachine gun. It is probably one of the fastest drawing submachine guns of its class. So there you go. Moving on to the what is it? What's the next one? The center speed. The center speed on the TMP is slower than most submachine guns because of that heavy recoil. Typically, or normally speaking, the center speed is actually quite standard for most submachine guns, but because of its heavy recoil, kickback, and spread, especially if you've emptied your magazine after going full auto for so long, it's gonna take longer than usual, or longer than other submachines at least, for your TMP to reduce or get center speed back down to normal again. So unfortunately, I don't know how well you'll be able to cope with that. Moving along to the reload speed. The reload speed on the TMP is extremely fast even for a submachine gun. As you can see in both of these games here, both on Death Room and Oil Rig, it took me a long time to take out that guy. The reload speed is extremely fast, and as you guys can see in both gameplays, I'm using Extended Mag 2, and literally I'm reloading in an instant. So there is literally no reason why not to use the Extended Mag 2, unless of course you're short on GP, because with the Extended Mag 2, the total cost you'll be spending for your TMP overall will be 1600 GP. That's as much as buying a freaking DSR-1, so I don't know if that's an investment you want to make. I mean, just a normal Extended Mag 1 is good enough for the TMP anyway. Moving on to the fire modes. It is only available in one fire mode, and that's fully automatic. Luck. Because of its high accuracy and tendency to kick very high upwards to enemies' head, like the overall head region, I would think that the TMP is very lucky in terms of getting headshots and whatnot. So that's just my opinion. I mean, you guys can think of it what you want, but I think that the TMP is very lucky for me anyway. So moving on to the ammo capacity. The ammo capacity on the TMP is at a standard 30 rounds per magazine and 90 in reserve. Muzzle Noise, it has an integrated silencer as well, so I believe the integrated silencer is unique on the TMP. It's a very, very quiet, it sounds like a suppressor, so I mean, it is very quiet, it's very stealthy, so it suits that role very, very well. Moving on to the attachment options. The attachment options, oh actually I forgot, I glossed over the key physical characteristics by accident. The TMP is a very, very kind of small looking submachine gun. In fact, it's supposed to be classified as a machine pistol, but because there is no official designation as machine pistol in combat arms, just like how the FMG9 Magpul was technically a machine pistol, but Nexon classified as a submachine gun anyway. The TMP receives the same treatment, and it is technically a submachine gun, but it is one of the smallest submachine guns in the game currently, because of the fact that it's supposed to be a machine pistol. It does have an integrated silencer and a forced eye-tech scope, like I mentioned previously, and it does have a small foregrip and a foldable buttstock, so that kind of gives you an idea of how it looks like if you guys have never used it before, or if you're not paying attention to the actual gameplay itself. Also, a little note that I want to make is that all clan items and weapons, including the CX4 Storm in the previous review, I forgot to mention that in that review as well, but all clan weapons and items feature your clan emblem on the actual item or gear that you're using itself. So it's a very kind of nifty thing. It's a good way to kind of show your clan pride. And I like that a lot. And for the TMP anyway, or for the CX4 Storm, your clan emblem appears on the left side of your gun, and on TMP it's the same way. Your clan emblem, you can see it clearly from your HUD, and it's on the left side of the TMP barrel. Moving on to the attachment options, like I said multiple times, it does feature integrated S1 silencer, I believe, because it's definitely not S3, because you can definitely see muzzle flash from that silencer, but it definitely features a S1 or S2 suppressor and a forced eye-tech scope, and let's see, I believe that extended magazines are the only things that you are able to put on the TMP, so there you go. Moving on to the Fireteam Worthy, because of its high damage and very good damage over range, in my opinion anyway, the TMP is better than other submachine guns at Fireteam, but all in all, I don't think you should be bringing a submachine gun into Fireteam anyway, especially Cabin Fever or Black Lungs, so there you have it. Moving on to whether or not it's quarantine worthy. For quarantine, I can see why you want to use the TMP. Portability wise, it is higher than most other submachine guns, and it does have a very fast reload, so that could help you as well. Fire rate is not too great, but I mean fast reload and good portability and fast draw speed for that matter are pretty valuable when free running. So I mean you could use TMP if you're going for free runs in quarantine. So there you go. So as for my final frank personal opinions on the TMP is, I want to say, one of the most overpowered submachine guns in combat arms. But the fact that its recoil is pretty difficult to manage is preventing me from actually confirming that. Before, I always called like the TMP, oh, that's overpowered, but I never really told anyone like, oh, it's overpowered, like type in the chat box, oh, it's the TMP is so overpowered whenever I get killed by it. But I did honestly think that the TMP was a little bit too strong for its own good. But now that I think about it, the recoil on the TMP is pretty significant, and unless you really know how to control the recoil on the TMP, it's not gonna, you're not going to get many kills with the TMP, especially if you're playing on like a more middle range oriented map like Oil Rig and such like that. So anyways guys, those are my frank personal opinions. I really do love the TMP, not as much as other submachine guns obviously, because I'm not quite used to, or I don't really like the recoil pattern on the TMP, especially how the spread on the TMP works as well. I'm just not a fan of it, but at close quarters the TMP can absolutely wreck shit, and as you guys can probably saw in the first part of this video on the game on Death Room, I was getting acolytes like no other. So anyways guys, those are my this is the TMP review. And next I will be hopping into, I think the next weapon is like the Gev machine gun? I don't know. I believe it's in the Gev, but I'll have to check. Anyways guys, thanks for watching, and hope you guys will enjoy the rest of the gameplay. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon with the next clan weapon or whatever it may be review.
Round start. 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 Alpha team wins.